Hi, you're listening to Ernesto with Christ-like Parenting. All our kids, I have 4 kids, they're all sick. Fevers, coughs, phlegm, and headaches, and tiredness, and body aches. I mean, the whole house is sick, and it's been going on for weeks. This one gives it to the other, now the other one relapses, and then they feel really bad, and they feel better, and they give it to the other. I mean, it's been going on for weeks, and it's exhausting. About a week ago, my wife had a bit of a meltdown. Just exhausted from constantly taking care of kids who don't want to take care of themselves, right? And now they're bored. They don't want to go anywhere, so they start saying, "Oh man, I'm feeling bad, but I want to play with my friends and I want to go outside." It's like, no, you can't go outside. And that kind of constant whininess and all this stuff just gets on. Whininess, is that a word? I don't know. It just gets on our nerves. Oh my goodness! And at some point, we let the kids go outside and we tell them, no, you can't play baseball. No, you can't run. But what do we find our kids doing? They're running. And what are they doing? Running without a jacket. It's 40 degrees outside. What are you doing outside without a jacket? And that kind of pressure just, weighs heavily on a relationship. So yesterday, the whole thing came to a head. My wife said, let's take my youngest daughter to the doctors, right? So it's gonna be a virtual call. And I said, well, wait, there may not be any need. She's only been coughing for 3 days. She has no fever. She feels fine. They're just gonna tell her to, do nothing for the next couple of weeks, like drink honey or whatever. Like, we don't need to do this. But my wife was adamant about it. Okay, well, here we go. As a husband dealing with a wife, no big deal. But you insert my daughter in the middle, it becomes way different. Way different. So I said, I disagree. And she says, well, I disagree with you. So what am I going to do? Let her have her appointment. I mean, she's proven time and time again that she's right in these situations, but there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can say about it. Even if I were to argue it, she's going to argue it to no end, and eventually she's going to have the appointment. It's just going to become worse. So I said, fine, do it. Well, what do you mean? Oh, let's talk about it. There's nothing to talk about because I know you're going to do it anyway. Okay, we're exhausted. We're both exhausted of taking care of kids. So I get it. The tensions are rising. Well, so what happens? I call the doctor first, or I call the hotline. They tell you whether you see a pediatrician or not. So I call them first. And what do they say? Don't do anything. Just give her honey. This is going to last for another 3 weeks. It's no big deal. She'll be fine. Okay, so I told my wife. My wife says, we're going to do it anyway. Yeah, fine. Do whatever. She goes to the appointment. She comes out with steroids. Steroids. For my 11-year-old daughter, they gave her prednisolone. Now, it's a small dosage, but I don't want to give her steroids. She's a small girl. She's a petite, little, tiny, young nothing, and I don't want to give her steroids. So that puts more pressure on my wife and I. We start arguing more and more. So this morning, we both recognize we got to talk. Let's talk. As soon as she comes in, but Ernesto, Laura's coughing. She has this annoyed voice with me. Now I'm annoyed with her that she comes into the room like this, and again, it explodes, and we start arguing and this and that. Oh, what do you do in these situations? What do you do in these situations, right? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what we did. We both recognize some very important features of our relationship. One is that we're both interested in our daughter's well-being. We're both interested in that. Okay, that's a common ground that we can both agree on, and we said it. And the other one is that we love each other. We do. If you take out the situation with my daughter right now, who's not feeling well, you take that out of the equation, we're doing great. I love my wife. She loves me. We're doing great. But insert the situation, and it becomes really, really difficult. But it's part of parenting, is what we have to do. So how do we manage it? Well, again, recognizing the common ground, right? We're both after her well-being. We recognize that we're also very tired. When you're tired, these things happen. You get more aggravated. There's more pressure. There's more tension. So what happens, the fact that we recognize it helps us. It really helps us to understand, what do we do from here on out? What should we do? So we sit, we talk for a little while, we get on the same page, we start talking about decisions of, what are we going to do if this happens, and what are we going to do if that happens, and we try to calm it down to a point where it can actually be a civil conversation. And it was. Now, one last thing, and that is that we both agreed to have a date night. We can't do it tonight because we have something else tonight, but let's do it tomorrow night. We need a date night. When you have this kind of tension between the two of you, you need a date night. You do. Please don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't even let yourself convince yourself that you don't need a date night with your spouse. You really, really, really do. Now, we'll have another podcast on how you can make that happen, even if you don't have babysitters, right? It's all there. Please go check out the podcast on how to have a date night. In the event that you don't check out the podcast on how to date night, here is the rule. We don't talk about kids. We don't talk about the kids during a date night. And it's so weird because when you put that rule out, you're almost kind of sitting there staring at each other wondering, well, what is there to talk about? Like there's nothing else to talk about. That's like the only thing we ever talk about. That's the most important. Yeah, no, not during date night. When you're spending time alone with your spouse, talk about anything else. Talk about how interesting the weather is. Talk about how the house, you're interested in putting in a new chandelier, or how work is going, or how how your daily routine is going. But if you talk about daily routines, don't talk about the kids. In other words, oh yeah, well, I'm doing schoolwork in the morning with the kids, and then I have to do that. But the moment she says, but Ernesto, not allowed to talk about the kids. Right? So that's very important. Anyway, I hope this kind of situation makes you realize that, tensions do rise in relationships. I mean, we know that, but there is a way around it. One of them is find a common ground. Find a common ground. Where are you both headed here? Secondly, if you're exhausted, just recognize it, that when you're exhausted, it happens. Tensions are still going to rise. That doesn't mean that we have to take it out on each other. If my wife is upset with my kids, she should not take it out on me. If I'm upset with my kids, I should not take it out on her. And if there is a situation that her and I need to talk about, we need to spend time alone. Spend time alone. Spend that time together. Get on the same page about everything and your plans. And God willing, you have the time to do a date night. And if you do, don't talk about the kids. Okay. I hope this works out for you. I will pray for you. Please pray for me, especially that my date night goes well tomorrow. It will. It always does. But pray for me anyway. I really would appreciate it. God bless.